Welcome to Marketing Monday, Jeff Bezos edition. Also titled, I read Jeff Bezos' book, so you don't have to. There's a couple nuggets of wisdom in here that I think are actually kind of helpful to real people in their real lives. And then there's some stuff I want to make fun of. So I got it all. It's not just about marketing today. It's also about all of business and life advice and all, all that. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it is my personal mission and dream to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube by April. And I'm about 14,000 away. If you could find it in your heart and hit that button and turn it from red to gray, it would really mean a lot to me. I read Jeff Bezos' book, so you don't have to. A Marketing Monday topic by ATRIOC. Jeff Bezos, a man who went from this famously, I sell books, to now I sell whatever the fuck I want. Richest man in the world. I think he recently repassed Elon Musk. What are his secrets? And how did he fit them all in this, 200-page book? Most of it's workout tips. Most of this book is how to properly maintain a bald head and get the biceps bigger. I want this to be known up front. There are a lot of things about Jeff Bezos and his colossal dragon hoarding amount of wealth that I do not support. So if I highlight a few things that I think he's done right or has good ideas on, that should not be considered a reigning endorsement of Amazon's business practices, nor of the impact that a person should have $150 billion. Okay? I just want that to be clear right at the bat. He's actually quite a good writer, especially the first half of this book is all letters to shareholders. They basically found every letter he ever sent to Amazon shareholders where he was convincing them to give him money basically for the business. And I found that he's a pretty good writer. And so I think that made me more likely to trust some of the things he's saying and some of the ideas he has, in contrast to some other billionaires out there who maybe aren't as eloquent in their writing capabilities, okay? Maybe they're a little more direct, they're not. The way I structured this is I pulled out, I think 3 things that I think are actual lessons that I might use. And I figure if I might use them in my real life, you might find benefit in using them in yours, okay? First one's think long-term. Thing I was impressed with his book and his writings from all the way back to 1997 was how much he emphasized thinking about the long term. So in 1997, he called his shareholder letter, It's All About the Long Term, okay? In 99, he called it Building for the Long Term. In 2000, he called it Taking the Long View. And in 2003, he called it Long-Term Thinking, okay? So he's kind of terrible at titling things. It kind of paid off. So let me talk about this. So this is Jeff Bezos. This is an actual photo of Jeff Bezos, age 30, in the first Amazon office, attempting to become a Twitch streamer. So he was a zero viewer Andy. He just couldn't get the primes, as it turned out. But from a long-term point of view, focusing more on the business than on this, he ended up buying Twitch instead and basically planting his balls across Seattle. It's the most gaudy headquarters I've ever seen in my life, like a supervillain. So something about long-term paid off. I'm going to show you another thing that sort of explain it, and then I'll get to the actual serious part. This is Amazon's stock price over the years. You might notice from when it was founded in 97 to basically about 2007, it didn't even really go up at all. People might think this is all Jeff Bezos is doing. Jeff Bezos and his intelligent planning is the reason this all started to spike. I'd like to point something out to you, though. This is whenever Jeff Bezos is running the company. Flat, flat, flat. Barely anything. Flat. ATRIOC joins Amazon in 2014. Interesting. Maybe I had some good ideas. Little Zoomer ATRIOC joined in 2014. I don't know. Is that... I'm just stating facts. Okay, you draw your own conclusions. Just weird that most of this seemed to happen after I joined and started shaking things up, If you are too focused on short-term metrics, like for example, even in something as simple as your elo. Like if you're trying to gain chess rating or get a better rank in League of Legends or Valorant, or if you're too focused on short-term metrics and numbers, you become very fixed on what you know works already. Okay? You get very much locked in on like, I only know how to play this champion, or I only know how to do this one opening in chess. If you give yourself a more long-term view and say, okay, eventually I'm going to get this to work. Let me figure out the good habits that make that possible. You're much more likely to experiment, find out what actually works, change, find something maybe other people aren't doing. Okay, I want to do a quick intermission here because I was like, wow, Jeff Bezos, you included everything you ever wrote except for those texts you sent to this woman here to cheat on your wife with. And I thought, well, we should probably include that because you know how to spit game. I love you, alive girl. I will show you with my body and my lips and my eyes very soon. The trick is to be very ominous and robotic. That's how you spit game like Jeffy B. Okay? This is a real text that he sent this woman. This, you might think is Photoshop. This is also a real photo. Jeff Bezos used his billions of dollars to get a cameo on Star Trek, his favorite show growing up. They said he showed up with more security than the president. He was in like an SUV with like 9 cars in front of him and back and full of bodyguards. One other story from this series of photos that I want to tell you is you might be thinking, who's the man in this photo? This is Patrick Whitesell. He is the owner of WME, one of the biggest talent agencies in Hollywood. And it's this woman's husband. And you got to think, I feel bad for this guy. No, these are all true. None of this, everything I'm saying is not a joke, by the way. This is all, everything on this slide is true. Because I can't imagine thinking you've won capitalism more than looking like this. This guy's probably like in his 50s, looks pretty good, tall, starts a talent agency, makes it one of the biggest in Hollywood, he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and then Jeff Bezos comes along and cucks him. If this guy can't win capitalism, what the hope do any of us have, dude? This is a weird segue. Because the next piece of advice is probably the most important thing, not a joke, in this whole presentation. And it's called the flywheel. It's the most important thing from Bezos Amazon I've actually used in my real life. It's the flywheel. Jeff Bezos won't shut up about it. It's very, very important to him. And when I started thinking about in terms of the flywheel, I actually found it to be extremely helpful. There's Amazon's flywheel, which is boring. Okay? But the general idea is it's like a wheel where everything on the wheel makes the next thing easier. And it should loop back to the original thing. That's the idea. I think like this all the time for a lot of things. And I'm going to show you 2 examples that I use in my real life of an actual flywheel. So the first one is one that I'm constantly struggling with. And that is to sleep on time. To work out and sleep on time. And so a flywheel that I use, this works negatively and positively, is if I work out during the day. If I work out during the day, I am much more likely to fall asleep on time and get good sleep. And if I get good sleep, then I can actually have the energy to work out the next day. Now, if you fuck up any part of this, let's say, for example, I stay up really late. Then I wake up feeling groggy and shit and I don't want to work out. And if I don't work out, then I stay up really late again. And the cycle perpetuates. It's bad. Okay? So I think about this flywheel. And if I get it started, the most important thing about a flywheel, I want to talk about this too. I don't have a quote here, but in the book and in what I learned about it, Jeff Bezos talks so much about how like the hardest part of a flywheel is starting it. You have to manually push it, basically. He talks about you're grinding the flywheel to get started. It doesn't want to move. No part of this is easy. You start it, and then once it starts, it picks up speed. This is an example from my stream. If you make a funny Twitch segment, it's usually better when you have a chat. For example, this is when I invited my family onto Twitch, okay? And we had chat members come in and ask them questions. That's funnier because I have more of a chat, okay? Funny Twitch segments. Then you can pay editors to turn those into YouTube videos, okay? People see the YouTube videos and they join the chat or create more Reddit posts, and then I get more funny Twitch segments. And you circle it, and then each step gets easier, and you make more money from each one, and it grows. I mean, in my early streams, I had like 80 to 100 viewers. I mean, I had nobody, not a lot of people in here. And you have to sort of make it work, and then I had to take a loss on editing. So I would pay editors from my real job. I basically had to take money from my real life. I had to lose money on Twitch. I lost money for the first 6 months, I think. Now it's about break even, probably less with taxes. But why would you pay taxes? Because I'll go to jail. You have to grind this wheel to get it started. But once it gets started, it starts spinning. And now, I mean, I took some days off. I took 10 days off. And this content almost ran by itself with the power of the team that I built with the editors and the content we'd already done in the past. All right. There was still new stuff to Reddit. So that's the sort of idea. POGGY, I make your wheels spin. Oh yeah. I mean, chat does. Chat makes the segments funnier. If I yoink a joke from chat, this one's pretty good too, actually, just because people I think get too stressed. This one's called Focus on Big Decisions. Now I picked these three. I picked these four actually. These are not from the book, but he talked about big business decisions. I'm talking about big life decisions. So things like where you work, where you live, who you marry, and who you prime to on Twitch. Okay? You should focus only on a few big things to stress about. But the general idea is that most decisions in life are what he calls two-way doors. And what that means is you can go back. Okay? So stop stressing so much about it. A business example he uses is like, all right, let's say we make a big decision, decide Amazon's going to go into healthcare. Okay? What the logo looks like, or, you know, what the exact pricing is going to be, or all of those things you can change later. I'm going to talk about some bad things I found in this book, but I'm going to tell you the last good thing I found. And this is another thing that I use in my life generally. And his concept of strategy as doing hard things. I have been in a meeting. I remember when I was 22 or 23, I was in a meeting at Twitch, and I was supposed to present the deck on my strategy for something. I think it was promoting TwitchCon, the first TwitchCon. And this woman in the meeting like laughed at one of my slides and said, "That's not a strategy. That's a tactic." And I felt crushed. And I like stressed about it. And I was like, what's the difference between strategy and tactics? And like tried to learn all about like fancy definitions of strategy. Okay. One thing that has been very clear in my mind, and a good way to think about how to be strategic in your life, is what is something hard I can do that most other people won't. Now, the famous Amazon example is this. If you are running a business and someone in the meeting is like, hey, let's do same day delivery nationwide, most businesses would say, no, that's fucking way too expensive. And it really is. I mean, the logistical challenges are crazy. How the fuck are we going to do that? No, you're fired. That's stupid as hell. But the unique thing about Amazon's culture is they're like, okay, wait a minute. But if we do it, who can copy us? You need to be a fucking multi-gazillion dollar company. No one else can do it. It creates sort of a moat, they call it. So that's the idea, is you do hard things that less people can do, and you start to build this moat that eventually no one else can do what you can do. I think the way to think about it in real life is you find a goal. What's something really hard? Let's say you want to be a great editor. Or for example, I think Nick, who's in here earlier, wanted to get better at editing, and he made a challenge to make like a new combo video every day. And he became really fucking good. He had an amazing combo video this summer. It's like the idea is that you're picking something hard, something challenging that you think most other people that have your goal won't do. Let's say you follow all my steps so far. You're a billionaire on your way to a trillionaire. There's one more thing you got to do, okay? And it's really important. Fill the last half of your book with puff pieces. Let me give you an example of one story that really stood out to me. By the way, I think this is a true story, but it's so funny that he chose to include it. I lost the page too. This is Jeff Bezos talking about his child at 9 years old. Jeff Bezos, young Jeff Bezos, saw a commercial on TV talking about how smoking is bad for you and how each puff of a cigarette takes 2 minutes off your life. Now, Jeff Bezos, as you might expect, was a little nerd. He liked math, okay? He liked doing calculations. And his grandma smoked. So he's in the car with his grandmother, and he's like, oh, I've got a plan that'll make her think I'm a clever little boy. He counted the number of puffs of her cigarette in one day. And then the next day, he did the math, and he poked his head in the front of the car, tapped his grandmother on the shoulder, and proudly proclaimed, at 2 minutes per puff, you've taken 9 years off your life. And he says he has a vivid memory of thinking he was going to be applauded for his cleverness and arithmetic skills. He thought she would say, Jeff, you're so smart. You've made some tricky estimates and done some great division. Instead, his grandmother burst into tears. This is a real story that he remembers. And he said the lesson from that, and I think this is the right lesson, I'm just not sure that Jeff Bezos really took it. His grandfather told him, Jeff, one day you'll understand that it's harder to be kind than to be clever. Now, Jeff Bezos likes doing hard things. I don't think he ever decided to do that. The last thing I have here is his piece of advice to aggressively stop unions and treat your workers pretty terribly. Here is an ad that ran on Twitch till recently when it was shut down after public outcry.
We really don't need anyone coming in and telling us what they want to give us, because basically we have everything we need here.
Who wants to pay those dues to the union? Gross. And that's why Jeff Bezos does the hard thing himself, okay? Somebody has to wake up early and stand off camera with a gun pointed at this woman to get her to say these lines like Amazon is great. And to get slightly personal here, which I don't usually want to do on stream, my father, who worked 30 years in the military, is one of the hardest workers I know, worked his ass off for 30 years. I called him yesterday. He has worked at an Amazon warehouse as a warehouse manager for like 6 months. And he is more tired than I've ever seen in my entire life. And it made me a little bummed. Okay? I have never seen my dad that tired. He is exhausted. And I know how hard he works. And so I want you to personally know that while I think that Jeff Bezos is actually a very intelligent guy, a very smart guy, I don't think he's optimized all of his newfound wealth from a very smart bet on the internet for good just yet. That's the end. Your next stop now, though, assuming you have less morals than me, is trillionaire status. You have everything you need.